to Vinyl Friday, where I go through my records in alphabetical order like a big nerd, usually, but today I'm going through Rubber Soul like a big nerd. It is our 10th week of Rubber Soul, if you'll believe it, which means that today we'll be listening to this track. I'm Looking Through You, track 3, side 2, here we go! I don't know if you can tell, but this is one of my favorite tracks on this album. I do have many favorites on this album, admittedly, but this one's really up there. Sometimes with these episodes I have like a grand central thesis that I'm trying to prove, or at least make a good case for. That's not the case with this particular episode. I just really like a lot of things about this song, so this episode is going to be more like a laundry list. Let's begin! The first thing that I would like to mention that I love about this track is that one of the percussion instruments listed is matchbox. When you listen to the song, you can hear drums and you can hear tambourine, but there's a little something else and I wasn't sure what it was. I thought it was knee slaps. But when I went looking for it, all that I could find was matchbox percussion, and I thought that maybe that was something that I was missing and had never heard of, but turns out it's a literal matchbox that he's just tapping on in his close mic. If you listen closely, you can hear it, right about here. I'm looking through you. Where did you go? It's one of my favorite things about this song. It's very pared back for most of the verses, and then it has these explosive choruses. So let's call that thing number 2. The verses of the song are very stripped back. Because there are no cymbals. It's just the and the bass. And the guitar, and then very simple sparse drums, kick and snare, basically. There are no cymbals, so it sounds quite subdued almost. I'm looking through you. Where did you go? The stripped back nature of the verses allows it to be the sort of calm before the storm, because when the chorus comes in, it explodes forth. Why is the chorus explosive? Excellent question, let's talk about that. First thing is that Mr. Ringo Starr, esteemed matchbox player, is also playing organ on this track, so he's really the MVP of this song, because he's on drums, he's playing the matchbox, and he's also playing that really distinctive organ at the chorus. So that wee wee. The chorus is also where the tambourine comes in. I have one of those. Let me find it. Just a minute. Okay. No tambourine. Tambourine! Quick side note about the tambourine. They actually dropped the tambourine in the middle of the recording and they didn't actually bother re-recording it. They just left it in. It's right after the words, "but not today." But not today. Musical genius. The electric is another thing that makes the chorus so explosive. There's hardly any electric throughout the rest of the song, with the exception of little fills here and there. But it comes in with a vengeance at the chorus, and it plays this. So yeah, explosive choruses. A real selling point of this song for me. I really love how at the chorus the organ and the guitar interact in this way that makes it sound kind of discordant and almost ugly. I think part of it is the way that maybe the way that the organ's overtones are interacting with each other, but you know, I'm getting a little too nerdy there. I can hear this extra little note, it sounds like works, especially when you've got the guitar riff on top of that. Well done, Ringo! You're doing great on the organ. I was great! Let's talk about some vocals. Listen to this beautiful harmony that John Lennon is singing. You don't look different, but you have changed. They sound so good together. I like how if you've got 3 harmonies, then they sound great if you just have them moving together and doing the same thing. But if you have 2 harmonies, like with Simon and Garfunkel, you can almost make it so that the 2 vocal parts exist as melodies in their own right. You don't have to worry so much about them clashing with the 3rd vocal part. This is, I think, a good example of that, where you've got the "you don't look different, but changed, and you don't look different, but you have changed. You don't look different, but you have changed. If you were to just have the vocals match each other, the harmony would sound like this. You don't sound different, I've learned the game. But instead, John Lennon singing, you don't look different. And it doesn't sound like much, but it does really make a big difference, I think. I also really love that Paul sings the verses so sweetly and so earnestly. Where did you go? Where did you go? And then at the chorus, he has this rasp that comes out. His emotional range in the song is spanning from like bittersweet heartbreak to pissed off. Listen on You're Not the Same. He sort of howls that, and then especially at the end. And if you listen really closely, it's on the fade out, so you can't really hear it, but he sings, you've changed, you've changed, you've changed, you've changed. It's great. I love that. When I was in the Elementary Penguins.
For those of you following along at home, the Elementary Penguins was the Beatles cover band that I was a part of, and we played our first and last gig around 18 days before the country went into lockdown for the first time. So COVID really was our kiss of death. Sad story.
Because I was Paul, I had to sing this song. And I just don't have that rasp in my voice, so when we got to that part, our John, who was a man,
still is if I'm not mistaken,
doubled that with me because he was able to get that gravel that the song needed. It fell a little flat when it was just me, so. This is also a song that's really, really fun to play. And a very good one if you're a beginner because it is musically very interesting. All of the chords are the basic ones that you learn first. It's just very satisfying. Let's play it. Oh, hello. I forgot I was recording. We've got basically G, C, A minor, D, E minor. These are all really, like, beginner chords. That's all of the chords the song has. But they change quickly, so it's a good practice song if you're a beginning guitarist. Satisfying because you can also strum the hell out of it. You can tell they're still in their Dylan phase. Basically everything from like the end of Beatles for Sale up to the end of this album, you can really hear the Dylan influence. They're just so acoustic and it's lovely. I love that about this period of their music. The last thing is that this song has a lot of suspended fourths and resolutions. Now, don't run away just yet. It's actually a very simple concept with a wordy name. But basically, here's what this means. This is a D chord. If you play a scale, that's the fourth note of the scale. So if you play the D, but you hold down the fourth, it sounds like that. So you're suspending the fourth note, and then you're resolving it. There's a lot of that in this song, which makes it a little bit more special for me. Where did you go? Then they hold it because that note is in the next chord, G. So it sounds like. I love that. It's also at the love has a nasty habit of disappearing overnight. There it is again. Another suspended fourth. There you go, you've learned something. Or maybe you haven't, but I hope it was entertaining for you nonetheless. Right, let's talk about the lyrics. This song was written after Paul and his then girlfriend Jane Asher had an argument. These things happen. As I understand it, her argument was that he was living this very bachelor lifestyle while being in a relationship with her. And his argument was he didn't want her to pursue her career in theater. He wanted her to stay at home and be his, like, live-in girlfriend, although he was living with her and her parents in their house. Piano correspondent trying out the main anchor position here, because this job looks easy. You don't even have to play the piano. Let's have another listen to this line in that context. So, to clarify, that injustice, the not treating him right, is her going on tour with her theater troupe because that's her job. Good. Just making sure we're all clear on that point. Back to you. I think that's hilarious, and I think it's a huge sign of how things have changed and how Paul grew as a person and changed with the times, because as I understand it, he's very respectful of women now, but at the time he thought it was okay to demand that his girlfriend stay at home and forego her career as an actress so that he could be a musician and sleep around. So more power to Jane, who in fact told Paul to get stuffed and went on her theatrical tour and is still acting. In fact, here she is playing a stately septuagenarian matriarch in the 2000 and something, in the 2000 film Death at a Funeral.
Tea can do many things, Jane, but it can't bring back the dead.
The last thing I'd like to talk about is some different versions of this song. The first is by the Beatles. It's the earlier rendition of the song, which was released in 1996 on Anthology, and I think it's far inferior to this one. It's slower, it's kind of plodding and mournful. It doesn't have the exciting energy that this one does. Here's a little bit of what that one sounds like.
I'm looking through you, where did you go?
The second version that I'd like to look at is my next favorite after this one. I'm pleased to announce that this is the second week in a row that I have reason to talk about the Muppets.
I'm looking through you, where did you go? I thought I knew you, what did I know?
Couple of last bits of housekeeping. The first is that as this is Vinyl Friday number 49, it follows that next week is Vinyl Friday number 50. Last week I asked you for suggestions about what I should do in honor of 50 episodes of this thing that I'm doing, and you came up with some great suggestions. The one that I've decided to go with is a list of my 50 favorite Paul McCartney bass lines. So I will be working on that next week. It'll be coming out soon. I've already made the list, so I'm set on what I'm going to be playing, but I would love to know, what are your favorite Paul McCartney bass lines? And if you don't have an answer to that question, I'd love to know what you've been listening to this week. What's on your turntable? That's it for me. If you would like to support any of my weird and wonderful endeavors, at least I think they're weird and wonderful, I will put a link in the description for my Buy Me a Coffee page. You are most welcome to make a donation, but you are not obliged. Thanks for hanging out with me. I'll see you here next week. Have a great weekend! I don't know if I talked about the guitar riff. Let's come back to that, right? Yes.